Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a great weekend. Welcome to another week, another edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code NATION, NATION, in all caps. Like and subscribe to the show. We'll get that out of the way right off the bat before J-Rock joins, because we're not going to talk about the St. Louis Blues at all today. Hope everyone had a great weekend. We got Brian Boyle jumping on about halfway through today's episode to talk about Alexis Lafreniere's new contract extension, which created a lot of buzz over the weekend. Obviously, it happened right after Colby and I were done recording, so we couldn't do it on the show. But we're really going to spend the first part of today's show talking about the New York Islanders. And for those who don't know, there has been a little bit of a rift between Patrick Roy and Lou Lamoriello, it seems. Based on online rumors, based on quotes that were in the post game. Also, Patrick Roy was not made available before the Islanders game against Florida on Saturday, which kind of started this whole ruckus to begin with. But Colby, I'm going to kick it over to you, and we can kind of get into this whole Islander thing going on right now.
So, look, I think everybody saw the rumor going around Twitter that there was some sort of argument between Patrick Roy and Lou Lamoriello. And look,
not a credible source,
right? Like who knows if that's true or not? I think both of us have talked to some people in and around, the Islanders that think that, maybe there is some truth to it. Again, neither of us can confirm it or deny it. But when you look at the history of these two guys, right? And you just think about Patrick Roy's latest, look at the situation that he was in Colorado. Like that's where I really want to start here, because I do think that it's really important context. And I started reading some old articles and trying to refresh my memory on some of the quotes and some of the things that Patrick Roy said and he talked about. And, you start reading into it and looking at things that were said when it fell apart for him in Colorado. And for those of you who don't remember, he left the team about a month before training camp. He resigned. And part of the statement that he released, Patrick Roy, when he resigned from the Colorado Avalanche, said as follows: "I have thought long and hard over the course of the summer about how I might improve this team to give it the depth it needs to bring it to a higher level," Roy said. "To achieve this, the vision of the coach and VP of Hockey Ops, which was also part of his title, needs to be perfectly aligned with that of the organization. He must also have a say in the decisions that impact the team's performance. These conditions are currently not met."
I mean, listen, we're not going to sit here and say that Patrick Roy and Lou Lamoriello are in a bad place, but
why wouldn't we? Listen,
there's room for speculation.
Hold on. Let's just finish the thought here, okay? Don't go back to the Islanders yet. Let's talk about that situation in Colorado, okay? Patrick Roy and Joe Sakic were teammates. They won together. From what Joe Sakic says, they were and are still friends.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember asking Joe Sakic about that, and to this day, he remains completely shocked that happened. He did not.
He said they were on the same page in that article. He felt they were.
He said he felt like they were on the same page. Joe Sakic said he felt like Patrick Roy was consulted on everything. He felt like that was a good partnership. Look, it's okay for grown men to disagree. Even if Lou Lamoriello and Patrick Roy had an argument and they yelled at each other, that's okay. It's actually pretty normal. Right? You've got two very, very successful, fiery guys, right? And I know Lou hasn't been super successful lately, but still, you can't say the guy hasn't had success in his life, right? I mean, that would be silly. So, that part of this whole thing, it doesn't bother me that much. And then you look at what happened in Colorado, Johnny, and you're like, why would Patrick Roy sign up for this situation? What would be the reason where he would think that this would be any different? Sorry, I'm having a little bit of an issue over here. My family's being really loud this morning in and around me. So I'm going to kick it back over to you, Johnny.
Well, I really want to go into the Islanders, but I know you want to stick with the Colorado Avalanche theme here. But I guess while you're figuring out the dog thing, let's actually just give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proraso, so we can get them up on the screen. Proraso is the most complete choice for shaving and beard care made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations, so get 15% off at proraso-usa.com with our promo code hockey15 in all caps. Hockey 15. Colby has actually looks like he left his spot to deal with the dog issue here. But listen, it's important to take these details that we've seen come from the Islanders in the past couple days and take the context that came from Colorado and Patrick Waugh's time there and just ask questions. Like, that's the media's job. And again, I want to defend the Islander media here because the Islanders media members, the beat writers, they didn't start this rumor. They didn't create this rumor. It was an account I saw yesterday, which actually has since deleted the tweet about a screaming match between Waugh and Lamoriello. But the quotes that came out, and I actually saw a comment in our chat that the written words are actually worse than listening to Waugh actually speak. But realistically, there's an injury and Waugh doesn't want any of the players available to fill holes. And that was written by Chris in our chat. We actually have the audio and the video from Patrick Waugh's post-game availability. So we can play the quotes that Patrick Waugh actually said so you can hear his words.
Having Marty back in the lineup, leadership experience, and I mean, he brings that physicality that we feel, I think Lou thinks it's important for us. And Pierre, I mean, we know what he did for this team in the past 2 years, and I guess Lou thought.
So this is why Colby brings up Colorado. It's not because, Waugh is threatening to resign from the Islanders. It's because it's clear that they're not on the same page. Because he starts saying we, and then quickly corrects himself to saying Lou.
And then there's no media availability. It's like he's distancing himself from these decisions. He kind of did it with the Matt Martin signing too. And I don't know if you mentioned that already because I was having to deal with a screaming child and a couple of barking dogs. So I'm sorry about that. But, it feels like there's a massive disconnect here. And that's really the reason we wanted to start with this today. Not because we care, not because I think it's a problem for a GM and a coach to get into it. I think that honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Some coaches like getting into it with their players, right? They like the fire. They like the passion. And I think you have that with Lamoriello and you have that with Patrick Waugh. The problem for me, Johnny, is that right there. It's that there's personnel things that are being forced on Patrick Waugh's head coach, and he doesn't like it, and he's not going to say we. He's not a guy who's going to toe the company line if he doesn't agree with it. And so, I think that this is where the problem is. And when you look at the history, and we wouldn't be doing a service here. We would be leaving out a major part of this equation if we weren't talking about what happened in Colorado between him and a guy that had a lot of really good history together. Now you come into work with Lou Lamoriello, who, is a total control freak. He's a guy who won't let team media on the team plane, right? He won't let guys have facial hair. I mean, and you're thinking that this marriage is going to work out. I think that's just, it's such wishful thinking here. And I just don't know why anybody ever expected that this was going to work. I don't really understand it.
Well, listen, right now too, it's a topic of conversation because it hasn't been pretty for the Islanders so far in the beginning of the season. I mean, I follow a lot of Islander fans on Twitter as well, and I tuned into that game on Saturday a little bit when they were playing Florida. They blow a 3-0 lead and lose by the score of 6-3. Matthew Tkachuk, essentially gets his way with Semyon Varlamov in the crease, goes untouched, scores a goal. It's just a lot of things that are wrong with the Islanders.
And Matt Martin does nothing about it. You bring Matt Martin in
his
for
first
team
game.
toughness, and the nothing happens here. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk is literally taking liberties at your friend, at Varlamov, and scores a goal. It's like, again, where is the spine? Where is the pushback? And I did see a comment from Singsy in the chat, and I do want to reference it because I think it's a fair point. And Patrick Waugh has since said he regrets the way that he handled Colorado. He has said, I shouldn't have handled it that way, right? So he has, kind of owned up to the fact that, that was a mishandled situation by him. But like Joe Sakic, who is the ultimate team player, even to this day, it's like one of my favorite people to run into in hockey, because he's just such a good human being. He's so willing to listen to your point of view. He's willing to listen to your thoughts on things. Like, he's not a guy, even though he is, an alpha, he doesn't have to puff his chest out basically ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't see how this situation is ever going to work. You look at these player personnel decisions, it doesn't feel like Waz being involved in, being included in them. And I wonder, Jonny, and this brings up a little bit of a larger question that I have. And I'm curious from our chat what you all think on this, but should coaches in hockey be more involved in player personnel decisions? And really, how involved are they? Because you've got a situation like in Philadelphia where it seems as if management involves John Tortorella in the decisions. It does seem that way. And to me, why wouldn't you? What would be the reason to make player personnel moves without talking to your head coach, who then has to use these players in a certain way on the ice? Most NHL coaches, probably 95% of them, get to choose their lineup every night. There might be a couple situations where a GM is like, you got to get this guy in or that guy in. That's usually the beginning of the end of a relationship, though, from a coach to a GM. So what do you think, Jonny? And what does the chat think? Like, how involved should a coach be in these decisions? Hey, we're going to sign Matt Martin. Yes or no? Are you on board with this? Are you okay with this? Hey, we need to recall a guy. Who do you want? Right. And I'll just give a very quick personal story, Jonny, and then I do want to hear your thoughts on this. And I remember this from when I got called up to the Colorado Avalanche. Joe Sacco was the head coach. And I remember getting called up, right? And I remember, my agent telling me at the time, because I wasn't playing well in the American League. It was only about 5 games into the season before I went up, maybe 6, something like that. And I remember being told, Joe Sacco, our head coach, not Sakic, Sacco, he wanted you. He asked for you and was told you weren't playing that well and said he wanted me anyway because he liked what he saw in training camp up until opening night. So, and then I remember Joe Sacco saying to me, look, I know it wasn't going well for you down there. Here's what I need from you up here. So, like, it was clear to me that he was the one who wanted me up, and they did bring me up, right? So, like, how much should these guys be involved? I think they should be very involved in this. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think also it changes with situations. I think the teams that are in the rebuilds probably don't need much say from their coaching staff on who should be in the lineup. Because let's face it, right? Like, GMs of rebuilding teams don't necessarily want to win games, but a coach's job is to put the best team together to win a game, right? Like, coaches aren't going out there to try to lose, but sometimes a GM might, not benefit from their team winning more hockey games. Like, that's just one situation that I think of. I think post deadline, you're trying, if you're a team that's trying to make the playoffs, yeah, there should be a lot of chemistry between a front office and a head coach on who you're putting out there if your team is chasing the playoffs or contending for a Stanley Cup, which I think the Islanders are in right now. The Islanders are a team that they have no time to waste. They don't have the best prospect pool. They have a lot of older guys. They're a team that wants to make noise right now. And to me, Lou and Wah should be cohesive and should be at least on the same page with what their lineup is going to be. Obviously, and I did see a comment in the chat too, things have been a little bit more difficult with Anthony Duclair being injured. Now he's on IR. So that makes the lineup changes a little bit different because he's the one piece that you really added this summer to help with your offense. So that's a hole that you have to fill right there. But I do think there are situations where the head coach and the front office don't necessarily have to be on the same page. And that's just my opinion. I don't believe that's every team, but what do you make of that?
Well, listen, I also think it's okay to have different opinions. Look at Philadelphia. Yeah. Look at the Jet Luchenko situation in Philadelphia. It seemed like maybe, management was ready to send him back down. It seemed like the coach was wanting to keep him around. And again, like GM is always going to have the final say, but I do think the best partnerships, you're going to give the coach a lot of input. You need to, because the coach is the one managing the bench in a game. These coaches are the ones that are, making the decisions on night in and night out basis for 60 minutes, which affect the outcome of your hockey game, which then reflects on the general manager and the success of the hockey club, right? Mm-hmm. So I personally think it should be a partnership. I do know some of these guys have egos that are just probably too big for that, but I never really understand this, and I'll use Toronto as a good example. When you have Brendan Shanahan as the president, and we constantly hear that he's, making hockey decisions for the GM, like where does the accountability then fall, Johnny? When these lines get blended, let's say coach to GM, GM to president, when things don't go well, everybody's like pointing a finger, okay? And then that means fingers are also being pointed back at them, and everybody's doing this. Like, where does the accountability then fall? You look at the New England Patriots for years, you had head coach and GM. So when things went to shit, there was only one guy to point at, Bill Belichick. Like him or hate him, there was nobody else to blame, because he was deciding who was getting drafted. He was deciding who's in the starting lineup on Sunday. Like, he's making all those decisions. So, I think that there isn't probably a one-size-fits-all approach. I think it has to do with more about personalities.
And Jeremiah, I want to address his comment in the chat too, because Jeremiah said, I mean, does anyone in this chat care that much about the Islanders? This feels like a giant nothing burger story to me. And this won't be a nothing burger story if things continue to progress this way in Long Island with the Islanders, because, listen, the only thing going well for them right now is Ilya Sorokin, who's 2-1-1 with a .936 save percentage and a 1.74 goals against. I mean, Sorokin has been phenomenal since returning from his back surgery. This past week, he played, a couple strong games, let up 1 goal in overtime to St. Louis 2 weeks ago. In overtime, lets up 1 goal against Detroit in the Frozen Frenzy. Gets the win in New Jersey against the Islanders or against the Devils, on Friday night. But if the Islanders don't figure it out, this relationship between the two of them is only going to create 100%. More of a story. So that's why we're addressing it right now.
And I first off, we decided we wanted to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And second off, when you think about the fact that this could lead to the end of Lou Lamoriello, or maybe Patrick Waugh's out of the NHL again and he's done with the NHL. Like 100%, this is something that is going to take on a life of its own. And here's another thing, when we started reaching out to people that we, have in our networks that cover the Islanders, none of them wanted to come on here and talk about this today. None of them. Okay. And that's because they do not, there's fear of how the Islanders going to react to people talking about this story. We know how Lou likes to contain, information. He doesn't want to leak anything. So look, I guess I can't blame those people. They don't want to lose credentials and stuff like that, being able to go to a game, but it is a little bit weak, in my opinion, that the Islanders, want to try to squash a real. Well, I guess it's not weak; it's understandable.
It's not. It's all rumor. Yeah.
Is it a rumor though? Like, when your coach is coming out and saying, like, he's drawing a line between decisions, and he's saying Lou, not we. Lou. Normally you say we. You're all in this together. You've all got one logo on. Okay, so I don't think it's a nothing burger. I don't think there's nothing behind the curtain. I 100% think there are things behind the curtain. Okay, look at his past in Colorado. Look at his quotes. Look at the way he talked about that team. Remember calling out Duchesne, calling out Landeskog. Like, he did not hold back in that situation about things that he said. So I think that this is probably a situation that is maybe going to lead the end of Lou Lamoriello. Like, if you're ownership and you've got to make a decision, okay, because this isn't working, you're going to take Lou Lamoriello at his age over Patrick Waugh? Like, I don't know. I personally probably go with Patrick Waugh.
Yeah, and speaking of while calling out star players in Colorado, you look at the Islanders' numbers right now. I've seen a lot of fans down on Noah Dobson. I know he has 5 assists right now in 8 games, but defensively has been a bit of a liability. Matt Barzal, only 1 goal in 8 games thus far, and that 1 goal was an empty netter. Bo Horvat has 4 points in 8 games, 3 goals, 1 assist, and they need those guys to step it up offensively. Like the Islanders were having trouble scoring goals, and that's obviously a major issue for this team. Their power plays at 11.5%. Their PK is at 69.2%. What is going right for this team right now, where the Islanders, I feel like, have been a team the last 2-3 years that haven't really changed much and haven't had much success. So this might be the year where they might have to shake things up a bit. And that's kind of all we're getting into.
You keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you keep getting the same results. Shocker. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Let's do you have a final thought on that?
I think that's good, Johnny. I think it's a story that we'll keep an eye on because it's not a story that's going away. And this is New York. Okay, this is a metropolitan division in the biggest. I know they're on Long Island, but we're one of the biggest states in the U.S. It's a massive hockey market. It's a massively passionate fan base. So this isn't going away anytime soon. If this team continues to lose, you got owners with big money too. Like, it's not like these guys are scared to spend money. I think we know, and we've seen that.
Yep. But let's transition into a team that we were talking very poorly about not too long ago that we're going to talk very highly about right now. A team that's won 3 games in a row. They currently sit in 3rd in the Atlantic Division, even though 3 through 8 in the Atlantic Division are all 500, essentially all have the same record of 4-4-1 outside of 4-4-0. They played 1 less game, but the Buffalo Sabres have quietly won 3 games in a row. Tage Thompson, if you look at the last 5 games, and if you look at the October 16th to October 28th 12-day window, Tage Thompson 4th in points in the NHL in that window, a +6. 5 goals in 5 games, 4 assists, 9 points in 5 games. And the Sabres are quietly climbing back up the standings, looking pretty good. Colby, are you impressed with what you've seen out of Buffalo?
Look, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and pretend like I've watched any of these games all the way through.
Their game against the Red Wings the other day was a wild one.
I've seen
back and forth.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. And look, I love the way Alex Tuch has been playing. You didn't mention him. You mentioned Tage. I think Alex Tuch is one of the most effective players on that team, if not the most effective player. The guy plays between 18 and 20 hard minutes a night on the top line. I think he's point a game this year, something like that. Their back end has started to play better with their puck management. When you watch them early in the season, you're wondering why they're managing the puck like a youth team. They're not putting a premium on it. And I think we kind of talked about that early in the season. Look at the difference of a team like Winnipeg that's managing the puck like it's a playoff series, right? The NHL is just too fast. Guys are too skilled. Fourth line guys can skate and stick handle and make plays now. So puck management has just been, there's never been more of a premium on not turning the puck over between, let's say, the top of the circle and the blue line in each zone, right? You turn a puck over in that area, Johnny, it's going to be in the back of your net. There's going to be a play made.
We have some interesting developments going on in the chat right now. Ben Benya, a loyal contributor, said, do you think Buffalo's quietly moving on or planning to ship out Devin Levi for better future assets? Feels like they're hitching the wagon long-term to UPL. And then Not a Botter responded right after saying Johnny was called crazy last week for suggesting Levi get traded. I mean,
well, first off, you said we have a development, and then you're referencing a comment in the chat. Is there that's your development, Johnny?
Yeah, the development is that the chat is supporting my claim from last week.
Who's trading for Devin Levi? I'm just curious. And what are they like for what? And what are they getting for him? Who's going to be the backup goalie for UPL? Like, I'm asking you these questions. Have you fleshed this idea out, or are you just throwing shit against the wall?
Last week I was throwing shit against the wall, but the Chicago Blackhawks obviously could be a suitor for Devin Levi.
Why?
What goaltending future do they have right now in Chicago?
Well, they've got a guy they just drafted out of the USHL. I believe his name is Adam Gajan, maybe Gajan. I don't know. I know they have Drew Comesso as a second-round pick in Rockford. Arvid Soderblom just played his first good game in the NHL about a week ago. He's a young guy who's on a contract there. Is he the future? Probably not. So I don't like. Why would you trade for Devin Levi, who's not proven that he can play in the National Hockey League? I'm just curious. Like, he's yet to show anybody that he's good enough for the NHL. So what are you giving up for that? Future considerations? All right, I'll add goalie depth for future considerations, but like he's not proven that he can play in the National Hockey League. So someone's going to trade for him and think he's the future. Also, why would Buffalo trade him? Who's going to play backup in Buffalo? I just like it. Where are you? You know, like flush it out with me here.
The chat got me fired up. I don't really have any.
I don't hear this like as a very well flushed out thought process.
It's not at all. It's not.
Okay.
It's not at all.
All right. So the development was a chat.
I think that was the chat. Actually, I think you might have told the chat to do that just so you can kind of dunk on me there.
I mean, I honestly, when you said we have a development, I thought you were looking at Twitter and you were going to say something happened in Long Island is honestly where I thought you were going with that.
No, but let's go back to Buffalo. Are you still, I mean, I don't think this team makes the playoffs still.
No, I'm not buying on this team. No way. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, look, they're a little healthier than they were. They still have problems in their bottom six. Maybe even their bottom nine. I do like their top line, though. I mean, like I said, Alex Tuch, one of my favorite guys. Like he's just, to me, like if I'm building a team, I'm finding a spot for him just because of the way that he plays the game. Like he's just such a heavy, honest player. I'm sure every coach he's ever had has loved him. What are you laughing at?
No, the chat. Johnny gets his rumors from the chat. We're killing it, friends. Good stuff. But Johnny's
going to be going on podcasts and other people's shows all week.
Yeah, saying Devin Levi's getting traded.
There's a breaking development. Somebody in our chat said that the Buffalo Sabres should trade Devin Levi. Devin Levi was also Johnny's pick for Calder last year, just to remind everybody about that.
And Cutter Gauthier is my pick this year, and he has no goals.
Well, listen, I mean, I picked Macklin Celebrini, but he's got two. He's only played one game. He's got 2 points, so he's averaging 2 points a game, which is at least a good average in the NHL. So I'm not buying on Buffalo. The games that they've won as of late they haven't really done it for me. They're still kind of outscoring problems, in my opinion, with some of those scores. But they are climbing back into, not being as irrelevant. And we widely criticized that whole issue between Rasmus Dahlin and Krebs. And I still think it was a jackass move, but hey, They've been since that happened 4-1-1,
I believe.
So I guess I should probably shut up, right? 4-1-1 since that happened. I guess shut up, Colby, because you're wrong, because that maybe got them going. I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't.
Yeah, but before we have Brian Boyle join the show here in like 2 to 3 minutes, we got to talk about the San Jose Sharks quickly, because back-to-back seasons they've lost their first 9 games of the year. Your buddy Ryan Warsofsky, the head coach of that team, comes out with a quote. It's embarrassing, truly embarrassing. I've been talking to my friend Mario Ferrara a little bit as well. Obviously he's not too thrilled with what's going on there. And the San Jose Sharks, I mean, Colby, I've been in more losing locker rooms than you do. So you've been, I can really feel for those guys. And man, I would hate to be a member of the Sharks right now. That's got to be tough. Any thoughts on San Jose or what they can do to turn it around? Because I don't think it's going to get any better, any quicker for the San Jose Sharks this year.
Listen, the San Jose Sharks are supposed to be really bad. I mean, I think probably what's really hurting them is that Celebrini has been out since the first night of the season with a lower body injury. I know he had a little bit of a lingering lower body injury last year too, that he played through quite a bit. I did see Jeremiah ask me in the chat if I thought he should have stayed at BU one more season. No, I really didn't. I thought that he was ready for the National Hockey League. And based on his first night in the National Hockey League, he gets 2 points that night and is one of the better players on the ice all night. I think he'll be just fine. You know, these kids play a lot of hockey, you know, rookie camp, rookie tournament, training. It's just a lot. Like, most of these 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids have never gone through that type of grind for like 3 weeks, whatever, 4 weeks leading up into the season. So hopefully he gets healthy. Hopefully he gets back. Ryan Warsofsky, friend of the show, came on with us this summer at the draft. I've known him a very, very long time from his brother, David, being my teammate. His brother, David, played probably between 40 and 80 games in the National Hockey League. I don't know the exact date, amounts, but was a phenomenal player and a teammate at BU and with me in the American League. So, well, I hope that they can, you know, get off the schneid, get a win, but they're built to be bad. You look at their roster, like, they're going to maybe get Hagens this year and go 1 overall 2 years in a row. I mean, that could potentially happen. And for Ryan Warsofsky's future sake, I hope it does happen, right? I'm rooting for those guys. I think the Shark Tank can be a great place when things are going well out there in San Jose. So shit situation there right now. Hopefully Celebrini gets back and at least you have a reason to turn them on and check them out. And Will Smith's just going to get better. I mean, he's a stud. Like, I watched that kid so many times at BC last year. I mean, he's going to be a star in the National Hockey League. I do truly believe that. He's too talented, too smart. You know, he's just got it all, really. So I think you get Celebrini back. You've got Smith. I'm not saying they're going to carry the team, but at least it puts a little excitement around them, Johnny.
Yeah, the San Jose Sharks are probably not a team we'll pay too close of attention to, I feel like, throughout the year, because it's not very exciting right now. But Brian Boyle, friend of the show, is waiting patiently in our, I guess, weight room right now. So we're going to bring him on. Welcome to the show, Boiler. Good to have you back. I think last time you were on here, you and Colby got into a little fight about Kucherov. So it's good this time around that you guys are friends. But you might not be friends after this Lafreniere conversation, because Colby is a Lafreniere hater. I know he's going to defend himself and say it's not true, but I'm putting words in his mouth like he always does to me. But when the contract first came out, 7 by 7.45, Boiler, what'd you make of it?
I thought hats off to Chris Drury, and I know there's other people that probably disagree with me, but I thought it was going to be an 8 for 8. Now I want to give you the benefit of the doubt here. Let's hear your argument. He heard mine, and you know, Colby heard my argument with Cooch. It turned out to be sort of a misunderstanding. I would like to hear his argument if he has one.
Honestly, I think that you're talking about a guy who's over a point a game right now. So he's carried on from last year. What do you have? 60 points last year. He's probably going to have 75 points this year. That's a very team friendly contract. I don't like, I think I thought he'd get 8 years. To me, the fact that they got him locked up on a really similar contract to Dylan Guenther, I think it's a little bit of a steal, because I think he's a better player, and he's been a better player for at least a full season. The guy in not Arizona, in Utah, he did it for half of the time that Lafreniere has done it. I think Lafreniere left money on the table. You know, and I've seen all these quotes about now guys are like taking shots at Igor. I saw Rupper do it. I saw another quote. I mean, the only thing I at least say to those is, like, why is it always the player that has to take the team-friendly deal? How about the owners get rid of the salary cap, and then players can make whatever they want? But no, Brian, like, I've been nothing but complimentary. The fact that Lafreniere has continued from where he was at last year. I always just say I want to see guys do it for an extended period of time before I give them a gold cloak. And once you do it for an extended period of time, well, what can I possibly say? Look at the guy's results.
Yeah, so you got to look at patterns, right? And that's probably why I was surprised if, like, 5 years ago, this same situation came up and he signed for, you know, it'd be different because the cap was less. But it was like, I remember Heischer got his deal, seemed early. Hughes got his deal, seemed early in Jersey. And then you kind of just see all these, like, that bridge deal went away.
Gone. Like
So
McAvoy took a bridge deal, if you remember. He took 2 years. Like all these guys were for a while.
And Lafreniere did too, but he wasn't.
He was a third
what
line
he
player.
was. Yeah, and he hadn't really taken the step, and it took him maybe a year longer than patient people probably thought it should have. But give him credit, like they didn't give up on him. He didn't give up on them, and it's a nice marriage right now because that's how it should be. He's a different player. He started last year building that line was awesome with Trocheck and Panarin. If people have an argument thinking Panarin drives that line, I mean, what Lafreniere does in the inside of the ice, what Trocheck can do in the inside of the ice, gives Panarin, it's a great compliment, all three of them. It gives him the space to kind of not play perimeter, but use the whole rink to make plays. And I thought Panarin got to the inside a lot last year, not as much in the playoffs, but that's a different story. Lafreniere has taken his game to a different level. He's challenging inside the dots. He's making plays at a high rate of speed. He's making highlight plays, passes. His compete level's way off the charts now. And then when you want to go to the goalie, well, if the guy thinks he's the best in the world at what he does, and the team needs him to advance and do what they want to do, he's got leverage. He's going to be a UFA. He's trying to make all the money he can. If people are mad at him about that, go kick rocks because he's going to try and get the best deal he can. Because in 2 years, the cap's going to be over $100 million, allegedly, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, Boiler, I just wanted to stick with the Lafreniere thing just one more time because, I think a lot
Johnny,
of people.
We know.
Yeah, probably like 5 more times.
Time?
Probably 5 more times. No, but I think when he signed it, a lot of people were questioning, like, was it really important for you to get this done now? Like, it probably would have benefited him a little bit more to wait it out a little bit, right? To keep producing and maybe get more money. But he doesn't really have the attitude of, let's say, other young stars do in today's game, where it's not like I'm going to get every cent that I deserve. Like, he's not like a fuck you kind of guy, right? He seems like a very happy-go-lucky, just very happy in New York, happy to be a part of a good team kind of kid. And I wanted to read this quote from Frank Vetrano, who I spoke to Saturday morning, who spoke about Lafreniere, who was teammates with him in that playoff run in 2022. Vic, if you have that quote queued up, I'd love to just read that out loud, because I feel like, especially a number 1 overall pick, we don't see those kinds of guys earn it this way. And I'm not sure.
Usually it's just, here's the keys to the Ferrari, go.
Exactly. And I'm not sure if Vic has it queued up, but I have it right next to me right here. And this is what Vetrano said. My first year here, he was in the third line, but he worked hard. He was finishing his hits and was hard to play against. Sometimes guys don't want to play that role early on in their career, and his game just slowly progressed and progressed. He's created great chemistry with Brett and Troch, and now he's scoring goals, making plays, and it's fun to watch him every night. It's nice to see a guy that earned it like that. And you think that just speaks so highly of Lafreniere's character, which was questioned for years. Everyone gave him the bust title. Everyone said he didn't work hard in the summers. Like, he got criticized for his, team softball, and shit like that. And it's good to see a kid earn it when it seemed like he had a lot of haters early on.
Yeah, and you do see certain guys kind of get the bag, so to speak like the young kids, prior to them really proving anything. And Colby, was it you that mentioned Gunther?
Yeah.
So there's a difference because Gunther doesn't play for the New York Rangers, and I've been pumping Gunther's tires like since I got back to work in the fall this year because of his release, his shot, what he can do.
Good. Yeah.
It's crazy, and they need some star power out in Utah. They need guys that will sell tickets, honestly, and the Rangers don't. And when you have the opportunity to play in New York, and people say it all the time, they think it is real. It's very real to be able to play in a market like that, where it's storied. Yeah, there's history. Okay. But people really, really care, and people are going to come no matter what. So you better show up and do well.
Grab some water.
Excuse me. Too many kids and going to school, colds running around. But the point is, like, you're somebody when you're in Manhattan and you're on the Rangers. It's the Rangers. So you want to stay there as long as you can. And Kevin Weeks brought this up on our show on NHL Now. He's like, look what Hank did. Look at all the different things he had involvement with. And then he went to work every day and was the best at what he did, but he still got to do all these other things because he played for the New York Rangers. If Henrik Lundqvist played for the St. Louis Blues, yeah, he'd probably be a Hall of Fame goalie still, but like, would he be talked about like he is? Would he be on TNT like he is? Maybe, because he's that type of guy and he's charismatic and he's, people want to be around him. He's a great human being, but it's less likely. And so there's a lot that comes with playing with the Rangers. If you take $500,000 off a year, even though the taxes are crazy and the cost of living's up through the roof, he's going to make his money because he believes in himself. He's proven what he can do. And this deal takes him right up till he's 30 and he'll get another one.
So what I'm getting from that is that Hank is the king and Lafreniere is the prince of New York.
So wait, Brian, let me read you this text message. Johnny sent us on Friday. He sent us the Larry Brooks tweet that the Rangers were closing in on the Lafreniere extension. Okay. My response to this was, the way that kid's playing, this deal could end up being one of the steals of the century. Just so you know, because I'm not putting on a front to not argue with you today. That was that was on Friday. That text message conversation happened on Friday, just to back that up. And then I want to go to a larger point here, because you made a comment that kind of sparked something in my head about giving everybody the keys to the Ferrari, right? You were a first-round draft pick. I tell this story. I'm working with a bunch of guys right now with the North American League team here in Jersey, right? And I tell them a Brad Marchand story all the time. And I'm like, Marshy was on the fourth line when he entered the NHL, okay? He was a fourth line guy for the first 40 games of his career. Then he was a third line guy for the next 40 games of his career after spending time in Providence, right?
Where he was the third line guy in Providence.
He was a third line guy in Providence, right? and I was living this because I was there, and I know you were kind of still finding your way up to the National Hockey League at the time, because I think you might have been playing some games in Manchester maybe at the time, if my memory serves correct, right? So I tell these guys, like, look, like, I know everybody wants it now and they want it immediately, but like, there is this path for a guy like Brad Marchand, who didn't touch the power play until like maybe the first power play until maybe his third year in the National Hockey League, right? So everybody with Lafreniere is like, he's got to get on the first power play. He's got to get on the first power play. But like, there is a success story to be had. Brad Marchand's a Hall of Famer now, right? Not everybody just gets handed the keys right away. You had to make your way in. You were a highly touted first round pick. I mean, you were the biggest guy out there. You had an unbelievable career at Boston College. Like, but nobody just said to you, here's a red carpet, you're on the first line or the first D pair opening night. So I think there's something to be said for that too.
There is. And it's funny. I got to training camp my first year pro, and they're like, well, you're going to go ahead and play D. I was like, all right. And so I didn't sign after my junior year because I didn't know what position I was going to play. I got there and I kind of knew that I might play D. So I go play D. And
this is LA?
Yeah, it was going fine. Offensively, it was great because D is so easy offensively. It's a joke. But defensively, it was tough. Like, getting gaps in the neutral zone. I never heard that until I was a pro. And like, guys are blowing by me who aren't particularly fast skaters. So whatever. And ended up the year like 30 plus goals, first power play, all that. The next year, I made the team out of camp in LA, and then I got sent down like by Thanksgiving. And I was like, all right, well, at least I'll get a lot of minutes. I'll get a lot of goals. I'll get my confidence back. And they wouldn't put me on the first two lines. And I'm like, I just got 17 power play goals last year. I had over 30 goals for you. I was your first line center as a rookie after playing half the year on D. Why can't I play and score some goals for you? And he's like, this is where you're going to be when you're in the NHL. So embrace it. And I remember going to Hartford and playing Anisimov and PA Parenteau, and I'd have to shut him down. And that's how I learned. And I didn't like it at first, but I didn't. Back then, you couldn't like, I don't want to do this, trade me. I just did it. And I learned a lot about how you play a hockey game, no matter what. Even if you're on the first line, you had to play like that. So there was a quote. I'm not even sure who said it, but it went to the effect of, there's an abundance of skill, almost like an embarrassment of skill. It's crazy to see what these kids can do. And there's a severe like drought of hockey IQ and understanding how to play hockey.
100% agree with that.
What Laf did was, and what Frank said in his quote about Lafreniere is, This is what he did just to stay on the ice, just to stay in games, get to put his jersey on every night instead of sitting in the crowd. And he built his game from there, like Marshy did, Colby, like you said, like all these guys did. You learn to be trusted from the guy standing on the bench behind you, and you go from there. You build your game.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to say, Johnny, about the Loft situation and where
I was going to move on, actually. Yeah.
I'm still not going to sit here and say I think 100 points is happening, but I will say the highlight of the way that this guy's playing is you watch every goal he scores. They're all from inside the hash marks. Yeah. They're all from the highest danger, most high traffic areas of the ice. And guys who are willing to go there, they don't generally have droughts. They're guys who score pretty consistently and make points pretty consistently, because that is the area where it happens. Like the streaky guys are the ones who need to, score from the perimeters and the off angle shots. And look, those guys are sick. Those guys who can shoot it and do that kind of stuff. But hey, look, I'd be an asshole and an idiot. And I probably am both of those things anyway. But if I came on here and said anything negative about Lafreniere, I would be. So
definitely an asshole, but you're not an idiot. I'll give you that. But Boiler, I also wanted to ask you too, because I think the last time you were on here, we had just started talking about Matt Rempe, and obviously, he's not much of a conversation right now in this moment, although it seems like he just got called back up by the Rangers. But in conversations I've had with people, do you seem or do you feel like he has been mishandled?
No,
by the Rangers.
No, not particularly. I mean, I look at the whole lineup. Yeah. And so you try to put yourself in the coach's shoes. I think there's a lot there. And I think by putting him down, and I don't know how many minutes he played in Hartford, and I don't know what he did. Did he not play a lot?
He did not play well.
Well, I mean, he hasn't played.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a different game. But so he's probably putting a lot of pressure on himself. These things happen. Like that's bound to happen. That's like, go back to my second year pro when I went back down. I was getting yelled at for not producing. And I said, you're not putting me in spots to produce. It was just kind of like figure it out. Tough, kind of the tough gloves.
Was Dean Lombardi your GM?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Dean was great. Everyone was fairly honest with me. I mean, I didn't particularly love the coach in LA, but that's fine.
You and everybody else.
Well, what happened, and then he got fired and they won a cup. But like with Remps, it's like it's not going to be a straight line to where he's an everydayer. There's ups and downs, and he's so big. He has to play. He has to learn a lot, and it's hard because it's sort of counterintuitive. You have to learn a lot, and you're not going to get those live reps. It's chicken and egg. It's like, well, play me more and I'll learn, or it's like, no, play better and I'll play you more, sort of thing. And there's so much there. Edstrom looks good. If you can have two of those, one's a little more physical, one's a little bit, I don't want to call it finesse. Yeah, you can say, yeah, he's definitely more skilled, but they can both come up together. That's like a 5-year plan with those two, I think. So I mean, they have numbers, and you got Reese coming back whenever soon-ish, I think.
And talk about another guy who's learned to evolve his game and do it the hard way. And I mean, I know him probably pretty well from Boston, and people don't realize how tough Veese is. Like, people don't realize that kid is nails. Like, you see it every once in a while, but he is absolute nails, Jimmy Veese.
Yeah, he plays hard. I mean, he's Hobie Baker winner, and whether Kyle Connor should have won it or not, it's like he scored a ton of goals. And then he scored goals in a limited role his first stint with New York. He can score, but he's like, I want to play and be a difference maker. And he was a great penalty killer for them. He's done a ton of things that he wasn't touted as doing. So you hope he plays, 7, 8, 9 more years, because like, I love stories like that. But he's coming back, and they got 14 forwards. So it's kind of, the Rangers have the luxury of just playing who's ready. They don't necessarily, the big club doesn't necessarily have to spend a ton of time developing, but I think they should with a guy like Rempe, because he could be such a menace.
Yeah.
And change games in one shift.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple more boiler for you
Yeah.
here. I don't know, Colby, if you wanted to take the floor of the next
I'm
one.
just
but-
admiring that photo you have behind you. I mean,
yeah, this
that's
is
really
nice.
cool. That is a great photo. And very,
He
very
does a
cool.
Rangers show with that as his backdrop.
I don't have art. That's my wife got me that for something. One of a birthday or anniversary or something.
That's a job well done for her, because that is a great photo surrounded by a couple of great players.
There's one of her when she was working too, but I'll just do a quick one. There it is.
Oh wow, yeah, okay.
I'll keep that hidden.
Oh wow, yeah. No, I mean, look,
My son's getting older. I'm like, we're gonna have to take that down. There's like too many dudes walking around the house. I don't need them eyeing up and down.
That's funny.
Declan's mom.
Are you keeping an eye on Boston College at all this year and their hockey team and what they have going on? Because man, like they look really hard to beat. That team looks so good. Which is like, how do you lose Cutter Gauthier, and then you come back and you're still, and Will Smith, and you're still the favorite to win it all? I mean, it's really impressive what they're doing at Boston College right now. And I'm talking everything from their collective with the Friends of the Hill, I think it's called, or whatever, to their recruiting. I mean, like, and obviously, you know, I'm from the enemy down the street, but you got to call out when you see something great going on, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and Brownie's the man. They keep crying poor at all of our alumni events, but I think they're doing all right. But I mean, the game's changed in so many ways with the finances and just how the recruiting goes and the portal and all that shit.
What do you think about NIL, Brian? Like, are you on board with that? I mean, what's
I mean, I had $0, and our scholarship, everything stayed in the school. So you had a card and it said how much you could eat that day. And I couldn't go to Dunkin' Donuts and get a coffee. Like, I had nothing. And you couldn't work in the summer unless it was a hockey school, because I was at school doing class and training.
Right.
So if they can live a normal life, like some of the big money stuff. Well, if they're bringing in all that money and all these other people are getting paid for their talent and their commitment and the amount of effort and, you know, just sacrifice that these kids have done since they were 8, 9 years old. Like, you know, like you guys both know, I don't know. I missed out on a lot in high school. And
everything.
Thank God I did, because high school is short and it's over quick, and you're not, you know, I stayed out of trouble, and now my life's sweet. So like, I mean,
I'm good with missing senior week. I'm good with missing all the Friday night parties where my friends got underages and all that. I looking back, it worked out. I can't complain about any of it.
Yeah. So like, but if they're bringing in all this money to universities, like, they should get like a little taste, no?
Yeah. I think
with BC though, let me say this: I saw them play the Western. They played Western at home.
Yeah, it was a sick game.
I mean, who's reffing that game?
Oh, it can be bad some nights.
And I actually saw Brownie shake his head at one point. And Brownie doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
Brownie was mad. That's as mad as he gets at officials. He's extremely respectful. Brownie was shaking his head. I'm in my living room screaming. And this is the first game I watched. I only watched the third period too. I'm like, what?
Is the Friday night game?
And then they
Saturday.
I don't know. Could have been too.
Yeah.
Right.
And
when they came back with Leonard scored late just after the penalty kill, or maybe shorthanded.
I think Ryan Leonard is the best player in the world, not in the National Hockey League. Like, I think he's the best non-National Hockey League player there is in the game of hockey. I think that kid I think he could have scored 25 goals in Washington this year. I really do.
I think Washington thought that too. I spoke to Washington. They were like, he just said he wants to go on more. And what do you say?
Good for him. He wants to win. I love that.
Did you see him after he scored? Like,
he always celebrates like that.
A non-conference game, the kid just wants to win. Like, how many of those would you want on your team? He doesn't care if he's playing on the moon against some, you know, Canadian university. He just wants to win and competes. It's fun watching him and Perot. Hagen's, I'm excited about. He looks like he has all the talent in the world. Who's the other freshman kid? He scored
Stiga,
on
Teddy Stiga. Yeah,
he's a little buzzsaw too.
He's. I'm telling you, listen. He's a hard. This is
second round pick, maybe.
Yeah, this is as good a team there is in college. They and their goaltender, nobody even needs to talk about him, but they got the best goaltender too. Like,
still got to beat Denver, dude.
We'll see. They'll be in St. Louis this year. I would feel very comfortable betting on St. Louis. And I will say this, the NCAA at the Frozen Four every year, they get so upset at what I say about the officiating because there's one game in every Frozen Four that the officials completely insert themselves into. They get overtaken by the moment and they ruin a good Frozen Four game. One of the two every year. It happens. So when I do college games and Johnny does college games, the amount of head shaking moments it's scary. It really is.
I called a game on Friday night. It went to an 8-round shootout. There was not one penalty called in the entire game. Zero. Not even a match. 0 penalties.
I'd honestly rather that.
Yeah, it was crazy. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah, they were pathetic then, and they weren't good. They weren't good in that one game.
Boyle, before we I want to reel it back in here just for like 5 more minutes. I know we got to let you go here soon. Obviously with that picture behind you, tonight's a big night for Tampa Bay. Steven Stamkos returns to Tampa, and you were a teammate of his for quite some time. I don't know if you've talked to him or not, but what do you anticipate the emotion being like in that game tonight in Tampa Bay? Because I imagine it's going to be very high and very FU in the Preds locker room.
Hopefully the Preds come to play for their new buddy there. Yeah, look, mishandled, I think. And I got a lot of respect for Julien Brisebois, but I think that was mishandled. I think the fans love Stammer. I think Stammer loves the fans. He loves Tampa. He loves the city. He took less. They dragged him through, and he said in the 11th hour on his last contract, okay, I'll take this, because he's a smart guy and he's a humble guy, and he's just said, fine, I'll do this 8.5 for 8, and it's a lot of money, obviously, and he's not going to be hurting ever. His grandkids are going to be fine, but like they kind of stuck it to him and hit his pride a little bit, and then they did it again, and that's why. Because we were in a group chat when he signed his deal. It was 8.5 for 8 back then. And 2 days before, he texted us all. He goes, "It's not looking good. I think I have to leave." And we were all devastated. But then he ended up coming back. It was great. And then just how he was sort of treated. It wasn't, and only by management. And I didn't agree with it. And he had 40 goals last year. So yeah, hopefully Nashville knows, and the boys in the room will pick him up, because they got a lot to play for. Now they're starting to come a little bit after just a nightmare of a start. But the Bolts are tough at home.
Have you been?
How much money on the board tonight? Like, I mean,
I think he'll throw up 10 grand for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say somewhere between 10 and 20, maybe
more. Yeah. He's a generous guy. Like, he's the man. So that's part of it too. I couldn't believe how they did it. But I mean,
have you been a part of a return like that? Like with a teammate?
Yeah. So I went back to all of our first game back at MSG.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully Ryan Callahan was thankful to us, because it was me, him, and Anton Strawman, and they did 3 different tribute videos, like back to back,
like they always do.
Yeah. They weren't as crazy back then as they were. I couldn't believe I got one, but
Kane got one last week. It's been 2 years basically.
At MSG.
It was like a thank you, Patrick Kane, or welcome back, Patrick Kane.
They're out of control with these videos these days. It's totally out of control.
At least I was there for 5 years. It was like, but I was a bum. But so Callie had
20 goals. You had 20 goals 1 year, right?
I did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I get to then
can't take that away. All right, so
I guess
Brian, where can we see you this year? Because you mentioned NHL Now. You said you're back to work in the fall. Give us a little bit of a rundown of where everybody can catch you this year doing what.
A lot of 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern on NHL Now on the NHL Network, which is tough for some people to get. I think they're still working on all that. And then I'm doing some MSG games for the Rangers, and might be doing a couple Bees games actually in Boston, for Nesson.
That's awesome.
Not sure on that. We're trying to work that through. We have the Up in the Blue Seats podcast with the New York Post with Molly Walker and Larry Brooks, and then me and Corey Schneider trying to bring back our one-time All-Stars. Keep on the lookout for that. That one's really fun. And then just the rinks up here in Greater Boston area. Might be down at the Chelsea Piers in Stamford at some point playing the wagon that is the mid-Fairfield. I think they're the Rangers. I don't even know what they are. They're nasty, though.
They used to be the Mid-Fairfield
Blues. They used to
when
be.
we were kids. Yeah, but they've changed since, right?
They got a wagon.
Yeah.
They're a good team. So coaching the 9-year-olds, squirt minors, trying to teach them the game and structure and defense and passing, which is nice. A lot of these kids have skill. They're awesome. It's so much fun coaching these guys. Being at the ring. So it's my fix. It's a good fix. When you retire, you kind of get lost for a little bit, and this has brought me back. I get enough hockey now. It's good.
Yeah. So you're down in Jersey quite often. Yeah, I see that show. That's like you guys are. It seems like a very laid back, sort of casual, player driven. I feel like
dunks on.
There's not always even a
no dunks. Dunks are for white girls, man. I wear the Jordans.
The Jordans.
Yeah. Dunks. My wife.
I don't know my sneaker brands that well. It's my bad. I didn't mean to offend you there.
You did.
I got UGG slippers on right now.
Those are great. Yeah, well, that's why you can. I can't wear those on the camera, but I wear them everywhere else. I have to. I have to put the Nikes on, and then
I'm sure our chat.
It's pretty cool. It's like this though. It's like what you guys are doing. We just can't swear.
We can swear. As long as
we can't on TV. We can't.
Oh,
true. We can't swear when Bet365 is on the screen, and Johnny seems to forget that every day. So, all right, look, man, we've kept you long enough. We have a bad habit of asking people to come on here for 20 minutes and keeping them for 40.
Everyone's gone in my house right now. I'm literally home alone. It's weird.
We do appreciate your time. We love your insight. You've touched a lot of these teams personally. I hope that people do hear and hear you talk about your path and how, again, first round picks don't get it right away. And Laf is a great example of that. So good for him. I will say this though, first time he goes 4 or 5 games without a point, I'm going to be all over Johnny. I mean, all over him.
Ain't happening, pal.
So good for him though. I love it. Good for him on his contract. I want all the players to make more money than they should. I'm a big proponent of that. Get rid of the salary cap. I'm sick of hearing how
do you see the valuations?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Team-friendly deals, like anybody throwing stones at Igor Shesterkin right now, forget you. Tell the owners to come up with a luxury tax, go over the salary cap, whatever. Stop blaming the players always. I think it's bullshit. These guys are billionaires.
Some of these teams won't be a team if there's no cap.
Luxury
That's what
tax.
I've been told. Yeah, you could do that.
Tax.
You could do that. Then San Jose would be San Jose for 20 years instead of the 3 that they're going to be.
Life isn't fair. We don't live in it. It's not fair. It's not fair and equal. It's
breaking news.
Yeah, Vic just broke some news, I think, in our chat. Jake McCabe signed a 5-year extension for 4.51. Sounds like
that's a good deal. That's a good contract.
Yeah.
Way he's playing, I think that's a good deal.
Toronto needs more of those.
Yeah,
Jake McCabe.
I mean, Kaber is hard nosed. He'll do the dirty work, and he can play top 4 minutes. Like top 4 defenseman in the National Hockey League at $4.5 million. Like I think Jake took more years than dollars. When I look at that, he probably could have got maybe a 3-year, 5.5 or something like. I think he wanted those years and took a little less AAV. That's how it reads to me right away, at least.
Good for him.
I'm actually surprised that our producer Vic doesn't have any Leaf questions for you, Boiler. He's a diehard Leafs fan. I know you wore that jersey for a bit. I think I'd be insulted if I were you.
I think the Leafs.
He just goes, fuck this.
Yeah, he's not happy. So I honestly, if I'm in the Atlantic, I'd worry about them later on down the road. I think they're figuring some stuff out and they're going to be good. I think they're going to get more saves. Berube. Like how Austin's playing, he's so committed to playing 200 foot. Guys will fall in line. I honestly, I would worry about them if you're not a Leafs fan and your team's in the Atlantic.
All right, let me ask you one. Since you're home alone and we don't feel as much pressure to get you off, let me give you one more question.
For Sloan today, Colby?
Let me. There is no soccer for Sloan this week because
I was gonna hustle to get him off. So
no, it's a week. It's the week down. My 1.5-year-old is in soccer, and it's like my favorite thing to do with her. So
Mondays we got to wrap up the show earlier because she's got soccer.
1.5. Good for you.
Yeah, dude, it's like so much fun. I think I might look forward to it more than she does because it's just so funny.
It's the best.
I'm asking you to put a GM hat on here. Okay.
Nice.
Igor Shesterkin, if you're the New York Rangers, right? Like, or any GM, right? Forget it. He's a UFA. Anybody can offer him a deal. Obviously Rangers can give 8 years. Everybody else can only give 7. What's your number? Like, where are you comfortable paying him number wise?
I could go to 12. I could go to 12 if I'm New York and 13.5 if I'm Detroit.
There you go.
Half your Detroit. Wow.
Well,
right.
Detroit needs a goalie.
No.
They need to get in the playoffs.
I still think Vegas is a team to keep an eye on because
they're both both their goalies are up, aren't they?
Exactly. And it's a no tax situation out there. So, that balances the contract. You could probably get him even at, if he's willing to take, we talk about that extra year. Well, the no tax helps make up for that extra year. 12 times 7 is probably pretty close to 12 times 8 in New York. In Vegas. It's probably pretty close.
It's way more. It's cost of living. It's probably right there, but he's anything over 10.5 elsewhere. He wants to be the highest paid ever.
Yeah.
I got one more. I got one more Ranger question for you too, and it's actually nice to be in the seat where I don't ask like the one more. It was kind of Colby who started this. Usually it's Colby wrapping up, and I'm like, wait, I got one more. But we spoke about Laugh and the PP1 and everything before, and obviously that's going to be an ongoing question throughout the season. And I don't know if I'm sure you didn't see it, but I asked Laviolette about it, whether it's a guy like Lafreniere.
Actually, I did see that quote. Yeah, I saw that quote. Yep.
I was actually talking to Brian, but I'm happy you saw it too. But I kind of want to read the quote because I asked Laviolette straight up. Like, obviously, everyone's going to ask about Lafreniere, when's he going to be on PP1, but there's more to it, right? Because as much as you want to promote a guy, you don't necessarily want to give a guy a demotion on that first unit when they've been so successful. So Laviolette said, for me, it's the function of the unit, the first unit, and the success rate of it. It's not about promotion or demotion. I think if you look at the PP unit and the guys that have been on the ice for the last few years and the rate that they work at, it's a high percentage and one of the tops in the league. It's about messing with that and inserting somebody else. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. There's a chance it could at some point. We just made a decision to start the year the way that we finished last year. But when you look at the way Lafreniere continues to progress, are we at the point right now even where you're holding him back a bit by not putting him out there?
He could be, but if you're holding him back a bit, but the top unit is still thriving, you can't mess with it. But is it thriving? Like
the top unit?
1 for 15 against Florida last year in the playoffs, and then 0 for the last time they played Florida. Like, they can't get to Florida. So I guess stick with it. Also, if you're putting a lefty in, who's a lefty coming out? Like, you taking Kreides out? So that's sort of what coaches look at. Like, in a huge part of which way you shoot is for it's for
the way it's set up.
Yeah, and that's so. Could it work? I think it could, but
every fan is screaming, "Take Mika off! Take Mika off!" But I think
he needs to
understand the way it's set up.
Yeah, he needs to get a little bit more involved. He needs to get more, either shoot everything and be that weapon, so someone has to stand next to you, a la Ovi, where you'd have a 5-on-4, but it turned into a 4-on-3 because you'd just be holding hands with Ovi over on the flank. Or like create more, win some more battles, or you can't lose a draw, even though Troch takes most. Like so you need a little more out of Mika, and he has been known to be streaky because when he's streaky, it's because he kind of drifts back and he's a little too perimeter. And we've seen with Laugh, he wants to get in there. So it's like, do you take Troch off, who's been great in the bumper?
You can't.
I think that's where Laugh's going to thrive.
Yeah.
I don't think you stick him on a half wall and it's like, all right, Kreides or Troch.
Yeah.
Mika's on the flank.
That's hard to pull either of those guys. And it's funny you mentioned that with Mika, and I think this happens at times too. The flank guys can get a little bit, you can watch a little too much, and like you're not recovering pucks. Like obviously the best power plays in hockey, they've got shooters, they move the puck or whatever. But like, let's just watch Tampa, for example. Like,
the best power play player ever.
How many puck recoveries does Kucherov get? Like, he doesn't just stand there on the flank. When the puck starts going to the net, he gets in there immediately and comes up with puck recoveries and And Point is the same way. They recover every single puck on the power play. When your flanks get a little too stationary and they don't help with puck recoveries, that's the difference between the one and dones and you're constantly having a zone entry and having 40, 50 seconds straight of being able to move the puck around and put plays to the net. And I think Mika probably gets a little, at times he turns into a spectator a little there, and he's not diving in as much on shots and recovering pucks. And I think that gets problematic for him at times.
I just remember like the 40 goal year when he played was it the pandemic or the one afterwards? Like it was still the pandemic, but it was shortened. He just scored every game.
Yeah.
He was just flying through the neutral zone. It was like he was a horse. So he's got to get back to that. He can, but that's sort of, he needs to be like the man. And there's a lot of personalities on that team, but don't pass it off. And like you said, Kobe, yeah, get involved. Cooch he's a genius. So he reads every play and he digs everything out. And then it's not only that, like he knows how it's going to bounce off the wall and how to one touch it to a guy that no one even knows where the puck is yet. And he's already made the play in his head.
Yeah, he's 5 steps ahead. He is. And it's funny, like we're talking about this because one of my roles with the junior team with the Titans is power play and penalty kill, kind of like handling the special teams and trying to figure out who goes where based on sticks. It's hard. You end up with a lot of lefties or a lot of righties, and you're looking for the right one-timers. And honestly, it's been hard, like especially when we get to 6-on-5. And our last 2 weekends in a row, we scored 6-on-5. Both times we tied the game up late to get to an overtime, and figuring it out. It like, I'll be honest, like I realized after the first week that I had to have a way better plan, because like just trying to figure it out with 5 minutes left or whatever, like not smart. But it is a little bit of a chess game with sticks. And then you're like, who do I sacrifice here? Because this guy's got our best shot, but this guy's our best face-off. Like,
Who's going that game?
I use 6 forward, 6-on-5 both times. And that's so I was a defenseman. The D are looking at me like, are you kidding?
We pulled the goalie on Saturday in a 9-year-old game, and our coach tried to put a D out, and who's running the D door, and I look down the bench and I go, never a defenseman. And it's nothing against the defenseman, but you have to dig out a puck. It's down in the corner, and they're like at 9 years old, they're going to go stand on the blue line because they're 9-year-old defensemen.
Yeah. They don't know any better.
We got an hour because we'll talk hockey now, like coaching and anything you can outnumber at the net. Outnumber at the net 6-on-5. Don't get outnumbered at the net 5-on-6.
Yeah.
You'll score more and you won't give up any.
Are you guys going to exchange strategies here? Is that what's happening right now?
That's the strategy.
I need a lot of help. The
last thing I will say, Vic goes, coach the Leafs, please.
They got a pretty good
but no, the last thing I will say, just, and again, like I don't want to harp on Mika so much, Brian, but you're, obviously so close to the team. You were in between the benches against the Florida game, and that Florida game was rough for almost everybody.
Rough for Florida for a little bit too.
Yeah. The main thing for me though is just like it doesn't look like he's having fun out there right now. That, like, I haven't seen Mika like really smile once yet this season. I feel like that's such a big part of it. And I don't know what there is to even ask you with that, but if it's something that you've noticed, maybe.
Yeah, maybe something's weighing on him. I don't know. They're 6-1-1, and maybe he hears it. He wasn't probably how he wanted. That's why I just thought it was going to be a different start because of how it kind of ended last year, and a lot's asked of him. But I don't know. I think I like what Trouba's done, and like everyone thought he was getting dealt in the offseason. So he's like, that's kind of what if Trouba can encourage that out of Mika. I mean, if that guy starts like catching fire, who's beating the Rangers? Like, so that's kind of what, I don't know if it's me, I sit down and it's like, yeah, he's okay right now, but like you can be this. That's why I'm not like trying to rail on the guy. I think but he could be like a top 5-6 center in the league when he's on.
2 years ago, we were saying he's a top 10 center in the NHL, no doubt.
Oh, there was no doubt, but like it's kind of taken a little step back. But if he gets back there, like who's beating the Rangers?
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's all.
But yeah, that's really all we got, I feel like, for today. But we'll have you on whenever you want to come back on this show because we love having you on here.
Love it.
Yeah. Any final thoughts from you? I guess anything you want to plug?
Oh no, I appreciate you guys having me on. I already plugged all my endeavors. Thanks, Kobe.
Yeah,
Set
we'll
me up
see
for
you.
that one.
We'll see you on NHL Network.
Yeah, tune in.
5 to 7. We need NHL Network to be bigger. We need more people to be able to see it. We got to have like a better dedicated, following. We always see people saying like, we don't get it with our, like, I get it at my house. We have, Comcast or Xfinity or whatever we have, but I do know a lot of people that are streamers that can't get it. So we need that show when it's like you and Demers and like Corey Schneider or Rupper, like it's just the three of you. There's no host, there's no reporter. Like it's just literally sounds like three guys that are sitting on their couches just talking about the games. And you have guys who have done this. It's good stuff. Like it's interesting to get the takes and hear where your guys' heads are at on things. So people should check that out.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's fun. I have a ton of fun doing it. I can't believe I get to do it. Like, it's sweet. I get to talk hockey with those guys. We have a lot of fun. Yeah. I appreciate it. Hopefully more people can. It's easier to access it, I guess. But you guys are doing awesome too. Keep doing what you're doing. It's a lot of fun to listen. And Johnny, I got to pick your brain too, because these tough questions you ask coaches, I would be sweating through my suit.
Yeah, I think
terrible at asking questions.
Well, I think Lavi like knows, I think by now that I know hockey a bit. So I kind of see his face like, wait, what's this fucking kid gonna ask me? You know? You know what I mean? Like I asked him about and I guess we're not letting you go. I asked 2 weeks ago about why he changed up the D pairs in the last 5 minutes. He had Fox and Miller together, and he had Trouba and Schneider together, and then he put Trouba with Miller to close out the game.
Is that did that question come from Adam Fox's dad or from you?
No. So the other night when they're closing out the lead against Anaheim, he actually kept Miller and Fox out there. So I asked, like, are they earning your trust a little bit more? And he like remembered that I asked him, I think 2 weeks ago, and he was like, kind of gave the answer that I think he knew I wanted to hear, if that makes sense.
As much as I give you shit, you do ask good questions, and you get good responses. I do agree with you. I think he respects the fact that you truly do know the game and you ask him nuanced things, and he gives you pretty nuanced answers. Like he doesn't give you, hey, we got to give 110%, responses. Like his responses to you are generally pretty good and pretty reasonable. So like I said, I give you a lot of shit, but I'm going to give you flowers on that. You do a good job with that. No doubt.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
It's not easy. It's so hard.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I know the answer.
You're doing it on the spot. You're like,
well, and I also know the answer to the question I'm asking, so I don't know how to ask it now. And I'm like, this is so dumb, but like, it's for not me. It's not for the players, for the folks,
people at home,
not for you.
Home.
Exactly.
But I'm like, I don't know, but hey, good job. And Lavi's the man. I love Lavi. Yeah. Shout out Lavi.
It's also, I'll tell you this, some of the most I've learned in hockey over the last couple of years is when I was doing Blackhawks TV, and we would get a private 5-minute meeting with our head coach, Luke Richardson. We'd get 5 minutes with him before every game without the rest of the media. And then for the most part, the other team's coaches, you've either cross paths, whatever, and you get a couple minutes with them. Like the stuff that they talk to you about, as long as there's some sort of a trusted relationship and they know who you are a little bit, I've probably learned more from NHL head coaches in those little 5-minute, like one-on-one, or it's just me and the play-by, like, I've learned a lot from those little conversations and those little meetings over the year. Those can be really informative, obviously all off the record, but really, really helpful and really, really, informative. Some of those guys.
They're for the things they have to handle too. Like even the Rempe stuff for Lavi right now. And like, and the laugh stuff.
You also just
what's best for this guy? Yeah. But like, what's best for this guy right now? What's best for him in the future? Also, what's best for the range? There's a lot of juggling going on. So
yeah,
I never thought I'd defend coaches so much.
And I will glaze Brian for a second here, because the other night, it was just, honestly, I thought about it the other night after. I thought how cool it was. Like if you told like the 15-year-old me, like I'd walk out of the Rangers locker room, dap up Brian Boyle, and then go to the media room. Like that was pretty cool. Boyle was just chilling on the phone in his suit. Gave him a little tap.
In back home.
Gave him a little tap, quick dap up, just kept walking. But that's pretty cool. So Boiler, I appreciate you. It's cool to have you kind of in my corner, it feels like. And
yeah, buddy.
I really appreciate
both you guys. You do good for the game. Keep it going.
BU and BC guys hanging out.
Thank you.
My son did say, he goes, what if BU offers me a scholarship? I'm like, I'll do 10 cartwheels and shake your hand.
Let's go. Let's go. We'll take
Not
them.
paying, you get to play?
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
You don't have any idea how hard and unlikely that is, buddy.
You can't go wrong, man. I tell people that all the time. It's you're picking two great places, if you know, but I will say better parties at BC because of the campus. So
I was in the gym. I didn't party. I wasn't there.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you probably don't even know where the mods are, right? All right, Boyle, we appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, buddy.
Yeah, go blast some music and dance around the house.
The twins are home now.
Hey guys. All right,
see you, Boiler. Thank you. Oh, that was awesome. That was like an hour.
Yeah, I guess he did stay on for like 50 minutes. Yeah, no, hey,
so look. Honestly, you know what, Colby, I gotta do a quick shout out here because let's be honest with our chat. Vic's been in our doghouse a little bit lately, and Vic texted me at like 9:50 and was like, "You got to get him off. Sloan has soccer," and you know, I was doing the best I could to kind of end the conversation with Boiler. Then once we found out Sloan didn't have soccer, obviously got a little more relaxed. But I got to give Vic credit. He's been a bit of a snake, but today he was looking out for you.
Yeah, and, he's looking out for Sloan soccer practice, which
we got to give him credit.
Hey, you guys know how important soccer practice is to me. I'll just get up and walk off the stage if I have to. I'm not missing soccer practice because you know we do it together and it's a lot of fun. So it is interesting though for you know getting his point of view, having done that whole Tampa, New York. Like today was definitely the right day to have him on to talk about those things. And I love how you tried to start it off with
trying to throw you off a little bit.
Yeah, just trying to.
Well, you do it to me, so I wanted to.
Yeah, but the difference is I always have my notes of my thoughts. Like before a show, I put my notes of thoughts and things that I know I want to touch on. That way, when you say things that are so crazy and obnoxious, you don't throw me off. I can stay with my thoughts here. Where like you know. You're easy to throw off.
The Devin Levi thing, I threw myself off guard with that. I didn't have that on my notes today.
Well, when you got the text last week during the show when Jake Ottinger bailed on us, like
you're saying the name? You're saying the name now?
Well, I mean, listen, we're a week out, so but that threw you off, you know.
Yeah. Well, Ottinger, we're hoping is coming on tomorrow, so that's the plan. He's in Finland right now. Dallas plays Florida and Finland in the Global Series this coming weekend. It was Ottinger last week that I was talking to, and he was supposed to come on the morning after.
And then he got shelled, and he didn't want to come on.
Buffalo, and obviously things change when they lose a game. But yes, we're hoping to have Jake Ottinger on tomorrow or maybe Wednesday, and then obviously we'll do our weekly segment with Pat Maroon at some point this week.
And we got Frank Saravalli coming on with us tomorrow as well. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a busy week for us here at Morning Cup of Hockey, and a big thanks to Brian Boyle again for coming on today. But let's get into the last little leg of the show here, our Bet365 bet of the day, and we kind of hinted at it with Brian Boyle. I mean, how could you not bet on the Nashville Predators money line tonight? Like Colby said, they probably have 10 grand on the board tonight for the Preds. They want to win this game for Stamkos. This is a big emotional bet. You know, obviously we don't always bet based on emotion, but tonight is one of those games where it's a game to watch also. It's a fun game to root for. So tonight, Nashville Predators money line, and the Preds have actually also won 3 games in a row, so they're probably feeling a little bit better than they were last week. And that's really about it for tonight.
And it won't just be Stamkos that has money on the board. What about Ryan McDonough? His first game back in Nashville after the trade, right?
No, he's on Tampa. It's in Tampa.
Or excuse me, against Nashville. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
you're going against our bet now?
No, I'm saying he'll have a lot of money on the board. Like I'm saying overall, there will be between these two teams, there might be, I don't know, like something like $30,000-$40,000 on the board tonight between these two teams. So, you know, that could make your Halloween party a lot of fun and a lot less stressful for whoever picks up the tab. So I like Nashville to win this game too. You know, we talk about the hockey gods and hockey karma on this show a lot. Stammer's going to have a big night tonight. He's going to have a big night tonight, but they're tough at home. They you know, Tampa is tough at home. They look like a good team this year. So that should be pretty interesting too.
Thanks for looking out, J-Rock.
That's all we got. No swearing right now, Johnny. Good call by J-Rock. He's co-producing, assistant producing the show today. Like Jonny said, we'll have Frank tomorrow. We're hoping to get Ottinger this week. We'll have Pat Maroon on at some point this week. They're on the West Coast, so it might have to be a pre-tape. We'll ask him about that fight that he had in the Nashville game, what happened there, what transpired there. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the episode today. If you like Brian Boyle, give us a like. This way we can tell Brian Boyle this was our most liked episode of all time. And maybe we got to work something out where we get him every other week and he becomes a regular contributor to the show. Look, these are all things on the table, but we need you guys to back us up with the likes, with the comments, with the follows, so we can then take that data back to him and say, hey, look, we'll find a way to get you on here. We'll get a sponsor, all of the above. So you guys are so important to this show. Your participation is why we even got a second year on this show. So, we appreciate that. We love you for that. We love the constant commentary. It definitely makes our show and helps keeping us moving. Jonny, I think that's all we got for today. We went a little bit long. So we'll see everybody 9 a.m. right back here tomorrow morning.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.